Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. It is June 7th, Shelby County Supervisors. Any conflict of interest, gentlemen, anything on the agenda today?
None.
Handbook updates, I might recuse myself from that
Okay.
because there's some pay adjustments in it.
Okay, with the approval of the agenda, we have one duplication, so the handbook is listed in here twice, so we can remove item 16. And also liquor license consideration quarterly is off the agenda, is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Darren. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Had a chance to look over the claims of May 30th. Any
Yes.
questions on that?
Yes.
Any additions to that, Mark, that you're aware of?
No.
Okay. Motion to approve the claims for May 30th as presented.
So moved.
Second by Darren, second by Charlie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved, motion carried. Next on the agenda, approval of minutes of May 17th. Any corrections or additions, Mark?
No.
Any questions, you guys?
So,
None.
motion to approve.
Motion by Darren,
Second.
second by Charlie to approve the minutes for May 17th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Supervisor committee reports. You guys have?
I have none.
I did just talk to Nick about what's going on out there, and maybe you know more about this as well, but
You're talking about the early
the early
mitigation.
stream mitigation. They did come out, a woman from the Corps came out and said this is one of the best projects as far as how it has turned out that she's seen. So kudos to Gary Hopp and his crew and our guys for starting the project. But they're going to, we're waiting for Mike from the engineer to do some cross angles, and once he gets that in, they will release more credits for us.
That's good.
How many working days left? I mean, they did a lot.
Yeah,
To me,
he
like
was
a
gonna
few.
be done by now, but the weather kind of screwed him up.
He's really close though,
Yeah,
within days.
They just really need to push the rest of the dirt in, haul maybe a little bit of dirt off that's still left, and then reseed that site. And she said there are projects out there that they're gonna need every credit that we've got, so we're setting good.
Good.
How soon's your best guess?
She was saying before the end of the year, our fiscal year.
Oh, before July.
Yeah, so I'm
That would be a
I'm not,
push.
yeah, I'm not holding my breath, so,
Okay. But before fall.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. The only update I have is, we've been working on with the assessor, our county engineer, county attorney, updating our windmill, solar, and hazardous pipeline ordinances. I visited with the guys. It looks like we're a month or two probably to get these finalized. So when that comes, they'll be bringing a draft to us. Okay.
Good.
Again, I spoke about this a little at the last meeting, but we're working on, we have an ad hoc committee together, working on the ambulance service, how to make that better. We meet every couple weeks. We're just in the beginning stages, the planning, drafting stages of that, starting to look at some proposals. So keep you abreast as how that moves along. Did I miss anything there? Okay. Anything else, guys?
So none.
Okay. Next, I need a motion to recess our regular meeting and open a public hearing for the proposed amendment of our Shelby County urban renewal area.
Motion.
Motion by Charlie, second by Darren. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, so we will recess our regular session. Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I've had no comment
I haven't either. You guys?
None.
by anybody. And what this is establishing the whole county road systems and right-of-ways as TIF areas.
That are in a
And we can do
matrix.
projects.
It's not all of them. It's all the ones that are next to a matrix confinement or building establishment.
I believe it's every road, that's why we got the permission from everybody. And then the projects are called out in the amendment.
As they come about? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, and also we've got a new parcel, and I notified the schools, any school that was close, even ones that weren't involved on the new parcel on BB Ridge, hog confinement. The taxable valuation will be with no buildings on it. When they put the buildings up, the county will be able to keep, except for debt that the schools have. We have to get their debt money, but the county will be able to capture all those taxes, the extra taxes that come from the building for a period of 20 years.
Until our debt's paid off.
Yeah. It doesn't add up to a lot, but it's worth the cost of doing it.
Yeah. That tends away all the TIF projects.
Yeah.
Are done. Brandon, did you have any?
No, just
To that.
to extrapolate on Mark, I believe we have to identify the whole county as TIF eligible, and then we call out the projects that are within proximity of
The
TIF.
area of,
the TIF
Right.
locations that
Okay.
TIF.
That just saves us a step down the road.
that's part of the process.
Okay.
The attorneys explained to me that lawsuits in the past 5 or 6 years by different entities has brought this change about, and it protects ourselves. And we contacted every city in Shelby County agreed to let us go right up to their boundaries.
And no objections from any of the school districts or anything? Okay.
The zoning commission did meet too, and didn't see any conflict with the comprehensive plan in approving this.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a requirement too.
Yep.
Tony had to get them together and make sure they were okay with it.
Okay. And the money's only used for road repair, bridges, culverts, things like that. It's not used for anything else?
It's in the fine print.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the hearing then? Motion by Charlie.
Second.
Second by Karen. Close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're back into our regular session. Now we have Resolution 2022-31, 2022, to declare necessity and establish an urban renewal area. According to Section 403.4 of the Iowa Code, and approve urban renewal plan amendment for Shelby County urban renewal area. Just
The supervisors have a choice here to make. It would be, you can approve it today after looking at it once, and suspend further readings, or you can have a reading, 2 more readings, or 1 more reading, up to 3 readings to wait for objections on this plan.
And normally, not always, but normally it's waived if there is no objections or hasn't been any questions out there to move it forward.
And it's been
Without having to
posted.
hear any, correct?
Correct,
Marcus?
yeah, that's correct. I mean, if there were some concerns that...
Yep.
were
That need to be
expressed,
addressed.
Right.
And on the
Then you would not
ordinance-
want to suspend the further readings, but generally speaking, if there are no concerns that are expressed, you can choose to suspend the further readings and pass it today.
Okay. Okay.
I'm with Marcus. And on the final ordinance that gets recorded in the recorder's office, it will say you guys suspended further
Last 2
readings
readings.
if you decide to do that.
Okay. Okay.
I got no problem with suspending.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to do that.
Suspend the second and third hearing. And a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay, motion by Darren, second by Charlie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Second is an ordinance providing the division of taxes levied on the taxable property in the June 2022 addition to the Shelby County Urban Renewal Area, print to code section 403.19 of the Iowa Code.
And what this is calling out the projects. Secondary roads has planned, and the use of the TIF, description of the properties.
Which we've done for the past how many years?
Right,
Yep.
right. And one new thing that they did with this, instead of taking the old projects off for being able to look back, they're leaving the old projects on there. And you can look at them and see what you've done in years past and know what was paid with TIF. And so they're leaving those on there. Is that correct, Brandon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we were going to take them off, and shorten the list, and they recommended, no, just leave them on there so people,
Who recommended?
our attorneys. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other Do you have anything else to add to that? No. Brandon? Pretty much like I said what we've done in the past. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the ordinance and division of taxes levied?
So moved.
Second by Darren, second by Charlie. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Kaylee Langrel, did I say that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, why don't you come on up here, and any people you have with you, come on up here.
I have a few people with me, but Chris will come up.
Okay. She's with Turnkey Logistics, representing the Summit Pipeline.
Yes.
Just take a chair here.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And Gene was kind enough to borrow that chair for you too.
Thank you,
Morning.
sir. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
And we also have construction manager Richard Dove back here. Do you guys have any
Hi, Richard.
questions for him? And then Elliot Ice, he's Summit project manager.
Okay.
So, you guys these. So I guess you guys are pretty familiar with the project at this point. Is that right?
Pretty familiar.
Clearly, I mean,
Happy to provide reminders on any content.
I'm sure we'll have some questions.
Yes, okay, so just brief refresher, we're capturing the CO2, putting it in a pipe underground, transferring it up to North Dakota where it will be permanently stored. So just a little bit about why Summit Carbon Solutions is pursuing this project. Number one, Summit Ag, large farming company based in Iowa, that is our parent company. Number two, the strong ties between the ethanol industry and the ag industry, especially in the Midwest. 57% of the corn grown in Iowa goes to ethanol plants. So that's a pretty significant percentage there. With this project, the ethanol plants are going to be able to sell into growing markets that are going to continue to grow. In turn, the corn producers will be able to sell their corn for a premium. Without this project, we will likely see the ethanol plants begin to struggle, which in turn, the corn producers would struggle, and that creates a ripple effect across the communities. That's something that Summit Ag doesn't want to see as a large farming company in Iowa. And so, Summit Carbon Solutions was created. So I'll direct your attention to the right upper hand corner of this handout that I gave you guys. And go over these tax numbers. I won't go over the state-specific ones. We'll just stick to Shelby County. We did have these numbers run by a third party, Ernst & Young. We do have the full 60-page report on our website available for you guys. Total investment into Shelby County is going to be around $22 million. New annual property taxes estimated to be $867,000 a year. I'm sure you guys can think of plenty of ways to spend that money. I know around 50% goes to schools. So we're looking at $400,000 a year, going to schools. And then lastly, I'll just give you guys kind of a general project update where we are. Construction, we expect that to start August of 2023. Land acquisition, we have about 6.86 miles acquired in the county. So that puts us at almost 28% acquired in Shelby County. So as far as permits, I've been in touch with Brandon and Tony. Talked to Brandon a couple times, and we're just collecting information and requirements, trying to get on the same page with you guys and figure out what you want. But we hope to be submitting those in the near future. The IUB, we have already filed with the IUB. Expect that decision around June of 2023. Partnerships, 32 ethanol plants across 5 states. We're also partnered with the Minnesota Power Cooperative, and that's a CO2 storage partnership. And then some of the investors, John Deere, Continental Resources, Tiger Infrastructure. And then lastly, community investment. So at the end of the day, Summit Carbon Solutions, we're based in Ames, Iowa. So we are a neighbor. We want to act like one. We want to invest in the communities, whether that's donations or volunteering time. We recently, on the 21st of May, did a creek cleanup in Ames. That was a volunteer activity that we did, and then we also donated to a K-9 unit in Nebraska. So just looking for ways to invest in the communities, and just wanted you guys to keep that in mind. But that's about all I have, so I know you guys have questions.
Can I ask you about this supposed $867,000 of new property taxes? Based on existing pipelines that we already have going across the county, we don't get anywhere close to that. Why would you guys be paying more in taxes than any other pipeline going across?
You want me to take that, or do you want to go?
You can take it away. I know you've been looking.
So we hired Ernst & Young, which is a very reputable tax and financial company. They conducted the analysis. There's some good analogs in the state of Iowa, including the DAPL pipeline. So we had to use some assumptions to make these estimates, but we feel comfortable with them. It's based on a lot of factors, line size, right of way, et cetera. But we stand behind these numbers and are fairly confident in them. The precision of it.
So you'll pay us that regardless?
We'll pay what we're assessed. Of course, what we're happy.
So that's what this top number is what the actual assessment will end up being, not what your overall investment in the county is.
Now, the new property tax annually, that's what the county will receive. That's what we expect the county to receive based on
Dollars wise?
dollars. Yes.
So how accurate is that? I mean, could we budget off of it? The reason I ask is because when you guys brought these numbers out, I had my assessor reach out to the Iowa Department of Revenue, and they're the ones that actually end up doing this. And this was what they commented back. They said the department still has not been approached by the potential value and taxes on what they would be. And even if they were, all they could say is how they would be done. They don't do estimates, and note that the cost of the pipeline only contributes to 50% of the value of the taxation. So as I read that, we'd be lucky if it's half that, because you're basing it, the way I look at it, off the total investment.
No, we're basing it on an analog of other pipelines in the state of Iowa.
But there's no other,
There's no other pipelines in the state of Iowa.
no, there's no other carbon pipelines in the state.
Oh, so the product going through the pipe doesn't matter as much as the asset itself. So the right-of-way is the same for other pipelines. The fact that this is high-strength carbon steel is the same for other pipelines. And so that's what the assessed value is based on. So the product going through a pipeline doesn't necessarily factor in to the assessed value of the pipe and the taxes associated with that from a property perspective.
But we have a natural gas line, main line going through the county, more footage than what this is, and it's not $60,000.
Yeah, I can't speak to other projects.
But that's what I mean, it's,
And it leaves us skeptical.
yeah,
is what we're-
because you don't list this as an estimate, you list this as new property taxes. It's really an estimate.
It is an estimate, yes, based, and you can find the full 60-page report and, on our website, it is an estimate. But, we are not tax experts. The people who ran the numbers are. So that's,
Sure. I'm just surprised they haven't reached out to Iowa Department of Revenue, who ends up doing this in the long run at the end.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have those conversations. It's necessary to. This is our best estimate for what the property taxes will be for Shelby County. And we're confident in it. We hired experts to do it. We wouldn't be putting it out in the public if we didn't believe it was true. But those are facts. We have a reputation that we have to keep.
Yeah, I know,
Well, and that's why I was asking this total investment, is that the actual assessed value that you're basing this $867,000 off of? Or is that what you're talking about, the labor costs and everything of putting this pipeline in?
So the 22 million at the top of the page is the total investment.
Okay, it's not the assessed value.
It's not the assessed value. That's how much
Their
capital.
costs.
Yeah. And what that doesn't include is actually the right-of-way costs. So in this 22 million, that does not include right-of-way costs, because that is more of a transfer than an actual incremental investment, so to speak. And so that 22 million, 22.6 million is everything but the right-of-way procurement. And then the new property taxes That's our best estimate on what we think the likely assessed value of the project will be and our contributions to the county.
Do you have any idea what that number was, the assessed value?
Not off the top of my head, but we can get that to you. I'll take an action. I have a good follow-up.
Tony has his hand back there.
Go ahead.
So,
Tony's our county assessor.
No, before he asked that question, I have to say thank you, Tony. We were sitting outside the county courthouse, and he saw my Summit Carbon shirt, and he's like, I think you're supposed to be somewhere else. So thank you, Tony. I really appreciate that. And you could probably speak better to the tax process than we can.
Well, it does lead to some questions. Like, for instance, in that 60-page report by Ernest Young, they actually say the direct property tax impact during the project operation is provided by Summit based on its preliminary estimates of operations. Ernest Young has not independently validated the impact. So they're going on what you've provided them to do their calculations. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we can't just say Ernest Young figured out and they were experts. They're going on what you've given them.
Absolutely, and let's go back to the project time frame. So Kaylee mentioned, we anticipate we'll get permits to construct in Iowa in June of next year, right? We're hoping to start construction in August of next year. And that's all pending permits and approvals, including those at the local level, right? We all know that. We're not going to begin operation until the end of 2024. There's a lot of discussions we need to have with you all, with other state agencies, to get these dialed in. And so we're saying, based on the information that we have at our fingertips, based on working with experts, this is our best estimate of what this will be. And that's where we are in the process. But just keep that in mind. When are we going to start paying that $900,000? It's going to be end of 2024 when we bring this into service. So let's just keep that time
Actually,
frame.
a year after that, yeah.
Well, a year. Thank you for that correction. But just let's keep that in mind. The overall time frame of the project. It's very important as we talk about potential ordinance changes, as we talk about requirements for local permits, as we talk about tax assessed value. This conversation here today is not the end of this conversation. No. This is the beginning, and this is us showing that we're committed to working with you all and having these kind of conversations. Yeah, are we going to get to, $867,390, and can you budget that amount? No, you can't. And that level of precision is almost comical. Like, we can all, but that is our best estimate, and it's a starting point for discussion in these type of conversations, which we are incredibly grateful for.
I just wish, since it is an estimate, it'd be listed that way as a range, because you don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a good.
Because otherwise it looks like this is an actual number.
No, that's a great
It comes out
write that down.
to $100,000 in income or $50,000. How would we ever trust? Let's say it again. The valuation, the tax receipts.
It's the assessment.
If it's 1/8 of that, which is what my best guess, I just don't see how it's going to be valued and collect that much tax money.
Everything I've looked at
I don't see it.
indicates it'd probably be 10% of this at that. And I can't come up with anything.
That's why I said 50 to...
Even the Department of Revenue off the record is telling me that would be a more realistic number.
And I think they should have them look at those numbers and...
And we realize that this is still an ongoing discussion and you can't nail that down, but.
Yes,
But
I agree.
You're
But it still should be
coming,
listed as an
yeah.
estimate.
And you're coming in here and pointing to that, fairly quickly in your presentation, so, it's something that.
And then as an example, my understanding is the project in Shelby County will be all underground, correct? There's no overground, there's no transfer stations, there's no boosters.
There are 2 valve stations. So
Okay.
that is what I came and spoke to you about. There are 2.
But it's essentially an on-off switch. It's not like it's a manned site or anything like that.
No buildings.
So it'd be nothing that would make more assessed higher.
Because it says, starting in 225, we're expecting 3 full-time people working here. And those 3 full-time people are contributing almost half of the property tax liability, which, first of all, wages are not property tax in Iowa. And secondly, they're contributing 238 million, or 238,000 of the $867,000 for 3 full-time people that I can't see would be here in Shelby County. So even just an estimate provided to us, a significant portion of it, I don't see where it's A, property tax, or B, would be coming to Shelby County if there are these people working on the pipeline. Maybe they're contributing 3 because of the number of miles, but they're not going to be in Shelby County working here.
There may be people in Shelby County working, so I don't think you can with confidence say where we're going to place people. Is that correct? I mean, can you?
Well, but you're telling us there's going to be 3 of them contributing $238,000 of property tax per year. So can you tell us, yes, we're pretty optimistic that you're going to have 3 people in the county?
No, it's our best estimate at this point in time. And
It just really leaves a bad taste in the mouth when we see things like that.
well, I apologize if it does, but I assure you, we went through these numbers based on where the project is and our maturity and the information that we have at our fingertips. We've worked with experts to put together this tax report. We're putting it out in the world to have conversations like this. We
So
appreciate.
let's have the numbers. Where are they coming from? I know you can't give us right now, but what are the assumptions? What are we working with?
Yeah, I took a note here to provide more clarity on the methodology. Happy to do that. I appreciate that feedback.
But if these are the numbers we're portraying in our public reports and putting in glossy color things and we're coming to meetings, then I think Summit needs to be ready to guarantee at least a percentage of that. You know, the county's going to be has the obligation to set up the group that has to be what is it? Essentially a funnel.
Compensation commission.
We're talking thousands of dollars a year in expenses just for that. There should be some willingness to guarantee those expenses were covered, for instance.
Why would we even have 3 people working in Shelby County, I guess, I'm talking after the project is done. Is that what these 3 people we're talking about?
So the way it works is you got the construction phase and the operation phase, right? So in the construction phase, you're going to have way more than 3 people.
Absolutely. Right.
There's a lot more people. Construction is happening. In the operation phase, we're talking about the operators, right? So these are people that are babysitting the pipeline 24/7. So these are people that are going out, checking the line, making sure the valves are working right. They're fulfilling all of our regulatory requirements around operations and safety. And so
that we would have people actually located in Shelby County that would be doing this.
I can't tell you where people live. We haven't hired those people. They'll be a part of the project in 2024.
So they'll probably cover multiple counties.
I would think, I can't imagine that you need that many people to.
You'd probably compare it to like Nipco linemen.
Yeah, I don't know.
The
Just
outpost
asking.
would be.
Yeah, where these people live and what they support and how they operate, we don't have that level of certainty yet.
That's a third of our tax estimate.
That's exciting that this has that big of an impact on the property taxes in this county.
But wages aren't property taxes. It shouldn't even be in this.
Oh, I agree. I'm sorry. I don't agree with your read on the report. I read the report and I didn't see anywhere where income tax was being. Like,
It literally says 3 total jobs will have total labor income of $238,000. You add that to the total value added of 528, and you get grade 67. It's right in the numbers to get your total number you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm happy to look at that report with you, or we will after this. Are there opportunities to refine this? Will we refine this number as we move through the process? Absolutely.
And I'd still be happy with that number, Tony, but it's,
Yeah.
if we took that part, I'd still be happy with 600,000.
But I can't find anything other than what we hope is the case.
I
And then it's
agree.
frustrating too when we try to talk to our legislators and so on about things, and they're being told the governor won't let them talk about it. So it just seems like this is all predetermined politically that project's gonna happen.
If this was predetermined, we wouldn't be making an investment in a conversation like this. If this was predetermined, we wouldn't be solely focused on voluntary easements. This is us coming to this venue and having these kind of conversations because we want to. We respect your input, and we're going to take it and we're going to do something.
It's just hard to accept these numbers.
And I appreciate that, Tony. I really do. And what I love about venues like this is we get pushback. Constructive feedback and constructive criticism at this phase in the project, it feels good to me. You want to know why? Because it helps us get better. And that's why we're here. we're here so we can listen, so we can get better, and we appreciate this. Like,
And I would love to be wrong, and I'm not saying I am, but everything I've seen so far, I can't see how this is possible. When, as Steve said, we're getting $56,000 a year from the gas pipelines, which are
And
1% what you.
if each and every county is getting this much, or somewhere around here, is this a viable project for you, paying that amount in taxes? It still is.
Kaylee listed some of our investors. I mean, that's why John Deere's invested in us. That's why Summit Ag sponsored this project. That's why Tiger Infrastructure, Continental Resources, TPG Rise Climate. It's one of the largest climate change funds that's out there, investing in climate change related projects. They've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in this project. I can't explain how many hours that this team worked on due diligence. Those companies, before they make a $100 million commitment, they scrub you. They look under everything. They make sure your numbers are right. And oh, by the way, they've seen these numbers. They've seen these numbers, they've seen this assessment, and they're confident in our economics and our fundamentals. And so yes, it's viable. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't, and we wouldn't be as excited about it.
Then there should be some guarantees.
I think to be more transparent, if you could list it as an estimate, and list the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, and there's a range, so there's no big surprises at the end, and everybody's upfront about it. Because you got to remember, us as a county, we have, as you all know, we have the most regulations and time involved in this project. It's things we have to do, so we carry the whole brunt of the expenses for the county. But whatever this final tax, property tax ends up being, we only get 28% of it. So it's not like the county gets the whole chunk of it. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind also. It's fair. So anyway, we're going to move on from the property taxes because maybe you guys have.
Nope.
I have some
Good.
questions too.
I'd like to make one suggestion.
Okay.
Call other counties, the oil pipeline that goes through, and call Greene County. It bisects Greene County, the oil pipeline, see what they get. And call some other counties and see what they get in tax revenues. I've already done that. That way you've got the numbers.
Yeah. No, that's great advice.
I mean, you don't have to sit there and use algorithms or anything. You call them and say, what are they paying in taxes?
Right.
And they'll tell you.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah, this is really good feedback.
Okay.
I truly
So
appreciate
you know.
it. Yeah, no, and for us, it's, we need to do better on articulating the methodology. We need to do better on showing the uncertainty, the range. We need to do better on making sure we list it as an estimate. We need to call the counties and provide data to you all to show the reason why. That's what we just took away from this, and thank you for that. I truly appreciate it.
Okay, a couple of questions I have. Okay, once you get started on the project, okay, what are some products or services that you would be purchasing locally here in Shelby County? Like, would you be delivering fuel from our local tank wagon? Would you be hiring people for construction within the county? Or what would you be providing in the county?
Yeah, so opportunity-rich environment for the citizens of Shelby County and the businesses in Shelby County. From your restaurants, your bakeries, your food, your hotels. We need the estimate in our report, EY report, says 11,000 people to be a part of this project. And we need to hire those people relatively quickly, get them up to speed, train them, maybe increase their skill sets to work on a multitude of opportunities, whether it's environmental inspectors, agriculture inspectors, welder helpers, you name it. It's such an opportunity-rich
So will you be hiring people within the county?
Oh, yeah. No, we have a commitment.
Like how many is your estimate?
I would have to go back to the numbers. I think it's in the report, but we're trying to hire locally. We need the right skill sets. We have to balance the right skill sets and where we hire, but we're committed to hiring locally. We're committed to buying American. So we made a multi-million-dollar decision to only buy U.S. steel. So we could go out and buy steel and pipe from across the world and probably cut our costs and make this project more economic. But our management right out of the gate said, hey, we're going to buy American. We're going to go out to U.S. steel mills, and that's where we're going to buy this. We have that same commitment to local citizens. And
So give me an example of some things for sure you're going to be buying locally. Will you be buying fuel from our local tank wagon guy for the construction project.
Yeah, I can't guarantee, but it makes sense logistically that if we won't want to transport fuel from somewhere else, if there's a viable source of fuel in this county, why not? And that makes sense, right? That
Yeah,
makes
it does, but I just don't know
economical.
if that's what's going to happen.
I can see a large impact on your local convenience stores and restaurants during the construction phase, but, and as far as hiring local people, I can see where, it depends on what you get for qualifications, but, yeah, I would like you to say the fuel, those are things that definitely.
That definitely could be, there'd be really no excuse why you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that advice. We'll definitely look into that and get more certainty on that. We're working on, first we need to secure the route. We secure the route, we develop an execution plan around that. We start getting into some more of the execution or the more tactical planning. And that's what the questions you guys are asking us about. Richard, do you want to add anything he's our construction manager. Do you want to add
Here,
anything
so you can
from
be on camera.
from a fuel, from a water, from a construction process? You're so knowledgeable on this subject that I just would hate to leave the topic.
As far as the labor force, we are going to use a union contractor, they'll pull 50% minimum from your local labor force by contract. Things that we'll be looking to buy local will be rock, fill, seed, fencing materials, fuel, things like that. I know all contractors, they don't like him having to bring that stuff in. They do source that local.
Equipment, like, do you rent the equipment or do you own all your own?
Contractors normally bring their own equipment in, yes, sir.
Okay.
Most contractors own their equipment.
Okay. On construction, working days, what's the estimate for Shelby County, working days on the project?
Working days, I try to target 160 days from the time we enter a county to the time we leave it.
Oh, that's all?
Now, there is going to be some restoration around things like wetlands, terraces, drain tiles that'll extend beyond that 160 construction days. And that's weather, that's good weather permitting. That's what I try to target with my contractors.
One of the main questions I hear, whether it's people contacting me or going to meetings, landowners, one of the biggest concerns I hear out there is if we get a big rain event, like say, we went through the last couple days, when do you stop and when do you start again? Because the reason that is, we're such a different area here with the Oasis Hills, and of course we're not flat, so we don't deal with a lot, we don't have any drainage districts in the county, but our soils are highly erodible.
Yes, sir.
And they absorb the moisture well, that's why you don't see irrigation around here. But with that said, the compaction, and I know you guys have probably seen the Iowa State study they did on compaction to Dakota Access, and they say it goes well beyond the 2 years that everybody says it is. It depends on if you're working in wet conditions. So I'm asking you, what are you going to do if it rains? Are you going to continue to work?
So we have an agriculture impact mitigation plan that we submitted to the IUB board that we would have to follow, and that would come from your agriculture inspectors at the county level that would follow that AIMP plan of when we can and cannot work in wet conditions.
And what is that now as we speak today?
One thing I'd add to what Richard is saying is, so since DAPL, IUB actually changed their regulations for agriculture impact mitigation plans. So they actually took the lessons learned from DAPL and they revised.
What's DAPL?
Dakota Access Pipeline. And they updated their Chapter 9 regulations to make sure that they could mitigate some of those risks to agriculture. And so
what is that? Because I had seen on the docket that there was talk on that they would stop construction if you have 12-inch ruts. Well, I'm a farmer myself, and I don't want 3-inch ruts to be determining the compaction levels going on down below, because it will be going on.
Yes, sir.
So are you going to bide when it rains like we just had? You're going to quit until it dries up?
So, like I said, I can't speak 100% on what the AIMP says. I don't remember offhand. That document is available on our website, but it's going to go back to your county agriculture inspector as to whether they let us work or not.
Who's that? Who's our county agriculture inspector?
You hire them,
Okay.
not us.
Oh,
Okay.
you're talking our inspector.
Your
Okay,
inspector
not-
is the assurance for us.
Okay.
And any costs that you incur by having that inspector, we pay reimburse you.
Okay. When you said agricultural inspector, I thought it was a county, but you're talking about the inspectors that we
Someone
hire.
y'all
Okay.
provide.
So the county can set their own parameters for that.
So the parameters are set in our agriculture impact mitigation plan.
No, but if we have an inspector, he should be inspecting by what our rules are.
They are inspecting relative to the IUB's rules in Chapter 9 is the way it's set up.
So you can't have it more or less than Chapter 9?
I actually I don't know if you can or not. We'd have to
Because every
get back.
county soils are
Well,
different.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you can't really just set a,
It can't be a blanket policy.
you can't.
Right.
Well, it could be, but it's not,
So
it's not right.
the key point here, I understand what you're getting at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're worried about the impact to fields and farming.
Right. Well, because there are a lot of farms here in this county are century farms.
Absolutely, absolutely. We respect that. And like Kaylee said, we were founded by an agriculture company, so we're not a typical pipeline company coming in here that isn't familiar with farming practices. This is a quick story. When we first got established, and I first joined the company last year, the Summit Ag, our sponsor, actually had 3 or more stand downs where they stopped all work and they brought everybody in the company in and they said, you all don't understand farming practices enough. And they put on a workshop to make sure that people knew we had folks, coming in from all over the country that didn't know what drain tile was. And farmers would talk to them about drain tile and these folks were thinking about bathroom tile. They had no idea what the farmers were talking about. So Summit Ag brought us all together and educated the team of folks. And so that just shows like the investment in making sure that Summit Ag wants to make sure that everybody that's on this project understands.
And when
that
you say
perspective.
Summit Ag though, you're talking a big corporation. You're not talking a small local farmer. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Can you tell me exactly what Summit Ag is? Is it how many acres and how many
I don't have
investors
the
are
acreage
you talking
or
about?
the stats, but it is a corporation.
And I'll just add, this line is crossing over Summit Ag land as well. So it's not something that they're not taking the risk on as well, so.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've read the Iowa State study that they did on it, and it came out and said, it's not just a 2-year yield reduction from compaction, but it also depends on what was going on during that construction phase. If it was dry the whole time, probably not going to see a whole lot. But if it's wet, we know as a fact now from their study that moisture plays a huge part of down the road compaction and yield reduction. So I would hope you'd be neighborly and respect that, because most farmers will tell you, I just want my land, you treat it like you own it.
Absolutely. And to that point, the intent of this conversation or this topic is you want to make sure that we don't impact agricultural land negatively.
Right.
There are a number of layers of protection that ensure that. First you have Chapter 9. It was updated after the Dakota Access Pipeline came through. We have an agriculture impact mitigation. Everybody can review that, can see that, can provide comments into the docket. In our right-of-way agreement, we actually are taking responsibility for the yield getting back to 100%. So if the yield does not come back to 100%, we're liable for that in perpetuity. That is in our easement agreement. So we don't want to pay those damages in perpetuity, but if there is proof that we impacted either drain tile, compaction, soil quality, you name it, we're on the hook for that. And so we're putting that in writing. We're not just saying that here in this meeting. That's in our easement agreements. And so if there's a compaction issue, say a rain event, we can get anchored on, hey, you need to stop the job if there's this much rain.
Right.
But there's ways to mitigate compaction during a rain event or during more wet conditions. So you can put down mats. There's other things that you can do to mitigate compaction. And so we can't just anchor on, okay, there's this one issue, now you got to stop the job. You need to do something You need to be accountable for that compaction, agreed, completely, and that's why it's in our agreement. And so I just want to kind of step back and talk about that. Like, we are taking accountability for bringing those yields back after 3 years.
But you could eliminate a lot of that by, if it's a bad event, looking at saturation points, taking measurements, stopping the project at different times. It would make it be a lot better for everybody, and then you don't have to pay out these payments at the end.
Well, agreed. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure we manage any agriculture impact mitigation. Because we know at the end of it, if we don't, there's consequences for us. And I just go back to, rutting or what you can, to displace compaction, you can put mats down and you can have your equipment go over mats. And so there's not it's not prescriptive, and it shouldn't be prescriptive. It should be performance-based. Your performance metric is do not cause an impact on our yield. And if you do, are you accountable? Yes. That's the answer to that.
But your statement was, can you prove we were accountable? You gotta realize that these small farmers know that they can't afford a lawyer to fight against your big lawyers as well, to prove that you're accountable for that compaction or for those loss of yields.
Yeah, well, we're going
You have to file damages, and it has to go through a comp board.
Right. But
There's a process in part there.
For us, in our perspective, it's as simple as looking across a field at the end of 3 years and seeing all the corn going this, and along our right of way it's doing this, and it's going up, and we'll go out there and we'll say, okay, we need to figure out what the root cause here. So for us, it's simpler than that.
Another concern I have, or what your process is, when you come into the county, start construction, how many crews will you be having at one time? Will it just be one?
No, sir. So the way the pipeline works is kind of like an assembly line. You'll have crews that come in that do the fencing. You have a crew that comes in and does the topsoil. You have a crew that strings a pipe, welds, digs a ditch. So you're going to have multiple
So they're all going on at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that communicated many months ahead to our inspector? Because we're hiring an inspector. And that inspector can't be at 6 different sites, watching what's going on, making sure, following the code, making sure what's ever in the landowner's agreement, that's being followed, watching for damages. So for every crew you have, we need to have an inspector, but the communication has to be there.
So prior to construction, we'll have a schedule that's put out by our contractor that we can communicate that with you. It'll have the start date, tentative start date of each one of those crews.
Because if there's a crew on site and there's not an inspector for them, those crews should not be running. Because we have no way of inspecting.
the inspectors are supposed to be there the whole time that they're
Yep.
working. Is that true?
Yep.
I don't know if that is true.
So, from a construction standpoint, we'll have an inspection team for the gas company. I'll have a chief inspector and inspectors under him, which will involve environmental inspectors, utility inspectors, whose job is the soil management, digging a ditch, stripping the topsoil.
Because our inspector has to know this in advance, so he's got enough employees on hand, because you're probably going to we have 24 road crossings that they have to bore through. So there's probably that crew going on all the time. There needs to be an inspector there for that. And if you have fencing and seeding and laying pipe, and there's going to be a lot of inspectors being employed.
So there is plenty of ways to collect data for inspectors to have a level of assurance that what we're doing is in accordance to the standards that have been placed on us. And so I don't necessarily agree with your mental model that an inspector has to be, there has to be individual inspectors there for every scope of work at all times.
But then you're not watching it, you don't know if it's being done properly. So Zach talked to our inspector, he even said there has to be communication, because he worked on other lines before.
Definitely communication.
Yeah.
Definitely there.
But he said, I can't read your mind, and if there's gonna be 5 crews here next week,
Yeah,
I gotta have some inspectors here.
So looking at it from a county agriculture impact, your county inspector will be there when they're stripping the topsoil, and they'll be there when they dig the ditch. But once that stretch is done, your agriculture inspector won't have to be back there until that topsoil is ready to go back. So he doesn't need to be there when they're welding the pipe, or when they're coating the pipe, or x-raying the pipe.
I would be surprised if he says he's gonna have inspectors at every project.
I mean, there's,
That would
He
surprise
said
us.
per crew.
Is that,
So whatever crews you have going
I
on.
think sometimes it's per spread.
and maybe he's talking during that.
So there will be one, what they refer to as a spread in this county. And so there needs to be at least one inspector per spread.
When you say spread, you're talking miles?
I'm talking a crew that kind of goes through that process that Richard just defined. A spread will come in and
Do
clear.
you start at one end of the county and work your way through, or do you start at both ends and
That's where we
meet in the
started.
middle? Do you?
but I can't speak on what the contractor is gonna do. Typically, we'll start on one end and work all the way across
Okay.
from point A to point B.
So you won't be taking the heavy equipment once it gets in here on our roads to go to different places. You'll be
No, sir.
just going up the line.
Gotcha.
They'll be going up the line.
There's no benefit for us to keep moving all that heavy equipment. We want to get on that right of way. We want to kind of methodically go through the county, and so it costs a lot of money to move equipment around, and Richard doesn't like when his budget gets blown like that.
Okay, well, just make sure that communication is there, because that's what's expected.
Yes, sir.
Oh, of course,
Okay. Brandon, do you have any questions on the roads?
Oh, just mostly during construction, and you kind of asked that, Steve, about leaving your heavy equipment on your guys' right of way instead of on the roads. If you don't expect it to be on the roads or crossing bridges or anything like that.
So as our equipment sits on the road, like if it's overnight or a long weekend or whatever, if we have a rain event, we're not able to work, they'll normally set that back 200 feet from the road crossing,
Okay.
just to mitigate any risk if a car was to run off the road.
Sure.
Heaven forbid, we don't have anything, any kind of equipment, anything like that.
And then, I guess for hauling in the pipe that you'll need, has any other counties talked to you about like a road use agreement where, it's excess loads on the road, that we're not really prepared for?
Coming in on hard surface
Ag,
roads.
Absolutely not hard surface, but any gravels that you have to use with that piping, if you tear anything up, then be expected to put it back to how it was.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, I'll give Turkey an opportunity to speak to some of the technology, like videoing the roads and some of the things that you all are doing for Summit Garden to make sure we put them back into.
We are in the process of using, it's kind of like the Google Street View. They're videoing all of the roads before and then afterwards, and that will be provided to you. So you will know what they look like before construction, after construction, and if there's any difference there, we'll be able to see it and come out and fix it for you.
Right. Okay. And then I guess with the inspectors, and maybe this is a question for, I believe ISG is the company that's in Shelby County, but the road crossings, is that something ISG inspects, or we expected to, within our right of way, are we expected to inspect that? And then, will all the costs get reimbursed? Would the county get reimbursed too for that? Or is that something ISG will handle? Because we're pretty lightly staffed, so.
Yeah.
The cost should come from the pipeline company.
Right. And so you all define the scope of ISG, or if you want another contractor to be an inspector. We run into that in a lot of different counties where it's just like, we're not staffed to go in and inspect each crossing and ensure you're following your requirements. And in that case, you define who does that work, whether it's an in-staff county employee or whether it's a contractor. And of course, we want to reimburse the counties for any costs that are incurred associated with this project that are outside of normal business for you all. So absolutely.
Oh, another thing that we do in this county that not every county does, and we didn't have to do it this last year, but the March, April timeframe, if it's a bad spring where it's been wet, frost is coming on the ground. 2 years ago, we had on and off, we call road embargoes, where you're not allowed to take any kind of, what's the truck size?
10 tons.
10 ton. You cannot take anything on our roads. If you do, you're gonna pay for it. Okay, and we expect it to stay off, because even if it's just paying for it, these people live on these roads. You don't.
makes them impassable,
Okay?
basically.
And it's usually, if you add the whole time together, the max time is probably a couple weeks. Last year was 0, so it all depends on the year. We didn't hardly have any moisture, wasn't much frost coming up. The year before that was not good. But, so just keep that in mind. If you're here working in that March, April timeframe, there's a good chance you might not be able to use the roads.
Thank you for that feedback. That's good for us to know, so we can factor that into our execution plan. And just so we're all clear, our objectives are well aligned. We don't want to damage roads.
No, we don't either.
You don't want negative publicity. We know you don't.
Or the cost. I mean, it's just our objectives are well aligned in that sense. We don't want to disturb the community. We want to reap the benefits that the community reaps, and we don't want extra costs. So just to be clear, we're vested in everything y'all are vested in, your roads and your infrastructure.
We need to move on. Does anybody, do you have any other thing? I will allow one question for the public if anybody has a question for these guys.
I have a question. We were told at one of the last meetings that there would be valve stations at every 20 miles. Shelby County's a little longer than 20 miles, that you've got 2 valve stations. So what is the real story? Is there gonna be, I mean, that's 40 miles you got covered there on either side. Shelby County's a little longer than that.
So there's 25 miles in Shelby County. We have 2 valve locations, so we're actually doing better than what we said. They're actually spaced closer than.
So do you know where those are at?
Yeah, here, man, I'll give you my map. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
The little red valve locations are there. Those are subject to change, but I just want to make sure you see that we are holding to our commitment and our previous statements that they will be either 20 miles or closer in terms of the valve location.
Okay, the map you gave us, is that, it looks the same as the initial one. Is it still the same, pretty much? You haven't changed anything?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We're having, negotiations for voluntary easement with landowners. As we go through that, landowners provide us input and their preferences, and so we may move the line through micro reroutes here and there, but that's just part of that voluntary easement process that we're committed to.
Okay, I have 3 questions that are going to be really quick here, that somebody had emailed me. I think I know the answer to them, but I'm going to have you guys answer, okay?
Yep.
And I've heard it before. If a landowner signs an easement with Summit and the project does not go through, does Summit still have the easement rights to the landowner property, or does the easement cease?
So the easement is just like any easement, right? And so if the project doesn't move forward, there is an easement on that property. We have the ability in the state of Iowa to transfer that easement back to a landowner, and so that would be the process, but we're confident.
Can you sell it to somebody else?
Yes, there is a possibility to sell it, but the terms and conditions of that easement hold. So someone can't buy this easement that's specific for CO2 pipe or CO2 product. It has a specific line size. It has all the requirements associated with agriculture mitigation that we just talked through. That is a legal document that goes with that easement. So someone can't buy it and then try to switch
But
it.
your intentions would not be to give it back to release that easement.
It could be, yeah, absolutely.
Well, if it stayed dormant so long from what I read in the code, then it would automatically go back to the landowner.
Yeah, I believe there is a time limit.
It's fairly lengthy.
Yeah.
If it's dormant.
If it's dormant, yeah. It's just like at the end of life of a pipe, right? So you have the scenario, which we don't think is going to happen, where this pipeline is not constructed and operated and in service. And then at the end, you also have an abandoned pipeline long in the future. And we need the right to transfer that easement.
So really, it could go either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody signs an easement, pipeline doesn't go through, they get to keep the payment they got, correct?
Correct.
And then the last one, if someone gets a lease, can they allow other companies, including foreign entities, to also put 1 or more pipelines in that 50-foot trench area now or down the road?
No, sir.
Okay.
Our easement is specific to 1 pipe, CO2 product, a line size, and everything we just talked about, agriculture mitigation. It's a legal document that can't be changed, so it's 1 pipe.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have a question? Okay, thank you for your time today.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
We'll probably have to have you back, though.
And we hope to come back. Is quarterly about the right frequency? Come back and check in about every 90 days?
That'd be good.
Okay, we'll follow up with y'all. Thank you so much again.
With those questions.
All right.
Yeah, and in between now and then, please send us questions. Please send us feedback.
Okay, why don't you leave me a card?
Oh, you got it.
Okay, next on the agenda is handbook updates that will go in effect July 1st. A little background, you've heard us talk about this before. We had a workshop in April with our HR attorney, Mike Galloway, Mark, Angel up at the auditor's office, because they're the ones that have to decipher and make sure the handbook, they follow it. So there was a lot of language change, or I shouldn't say change, clarification. We update, our goal is every 2-3 years. When I first got on the board, it wasn't done for 20. Okay, so we try to keep it updated from changes that were made. Just for clarification, a few of the major highlights that we added into the handbook is we added various departments had part-time starting wages and merit increases. We put that schedule in there instead of each having their own. We clarified how holidays are worked and how you would be paid. We updated our vacation hours earned after 6 months. That's something new that's going to go into effect with the unions July 1st. And so the non-union will also receive that. Address weather-related absences. Further defining bereavement leave. Further defining benefit in lieu of health coverage. If you don't take health coverage, what the qualifications are for that and how that would be paid. Defining pre-employment drug testing and addressing part-time cost of living increases. That's the major things. Otherwise, the rest of it was mostly language clarification. We had some typographical things in there. Do you guys have anything to add or something majorly I missed? But I kind of went through all the red line changes in there. Mark, you?
There was a bunch of section headings that maybe didn't match what was underneath because the words had been changed over the years underneath, and it was just clarified. A lot of clerical stuff.
Our
Angel needs to be called out. She did a fine job.
Our main goal was the auditor's office, no matter what it is, it comes down to them reading that handbook, and is this really what it means? And so that's what we brought them in. And of course, there were some things, they didn't read it the way we read it, but we're the ones that, kind of put it together. And so it was good for them too. So some of the things we did have to clean up, not so much. Anything else? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the handbook as presented?
Motion.
I'll abstain.
Motion by Charlie, second by Steve. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for everybody's contribution into that. I know before we started on it, there was several departments had questions or wanted things put in it. They were really good about getting that to us. Secondary roads report, resolution 2022-34, vacate road right away. Brandon, good morning. Brandon.
I only printed off one picture. So we'll look at it. She's right there. So, yes, Taryn and I were approached by John Buman on this small parcel of ground. Basically, in November 7th, 1924 was when this easement...
Almost 100 years ago.
When this easement was enacted, and it was obtained for the purpose of a channel change and to prevent the encroachment of the creek on the road. It was held for repairing an existing dam and for cleaning the previously described ditch. Whenever in their judgment the dam needed repairing or the ditch needs cleaning. My longest tenured employee has no recollection of ever maintaining a dam or doing any ditch cleaning there. So I don't believe we need to hold this piece of easement, and we should vacate any easement that we have on it and allow it to go back to the landowner.
Who did you all have a look at this?
Marcus you looked at it,
Yep.
had no issue.
Yeah.
And then Karen and I worked together to get the
Okay.
resolution put together.
It was probably, a lot of people didn't realize we even had it.
Right.
Hey, let me say, we own this?
Right, so,
And it doesn't affect any neighbor
no,
adjoining land. I see it's right along the road and a neighbor boundary line.
right, right. And we would maintain our 33-foot easement along Ginkgo Road there and just vacate this small section because we have no need for that easement.
So this was just an easement, we didn't actually own the land?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, we just have an easement to access it to maintain the dam that we haven't maintained for 45-plus years.
Does he have intentions of farming that little chunk?
I think he was gonna try to put it in CRP, and that's what he asked NRCS office about putting it into CRP, and they said, oh, it's county easement, so.
It's like close to half an acre or something like that.
6/10, I believe,
It's
is
not
what
a
it
huge area.
what it comes out at, so.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay, motion by Darren. Second. Second by Charlie. Any other questions? Darren or Brandon, any other thing else? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Want to give us some updates, Brandon?
I do. F58 project in Elkhorn, 10 Point is over there currently doing some patching, putting in some sidewalks and other things for the city of Elkhorn. What the agreement, we're doing the inspection on that. So Chris has been over there inspecting that. Rain or weather permitting, hopefully we get done tomorrow or Thursday with that concrete work. And then Western plans to be back in and do the final lift of asphalt on the west portion. There's just a couple blocks that need it, and then we'll be finished with the project. So it's coming along well. 10 Point's doing a good job. So hopefully another week and a half we'll be done with that. All the pavement markings are done except for Linden Road, and then that portion of F58 that we're working on. Linden Road, they brought their big truck, and it was too big to paint Linden, so they'll be back.
Too wide?
Yes. Yeah, their truck's 10 foot wide.
Wow.
So they can't paint a 9-foot pavement with a 10-foot truck, so they'll be back hopefully this week, get that finished up. Slurry leveling on F58, M16, F32, probably gonna start beginning of next week. All the pilot cars set up, so they'll do a mile or two at a time and just have pilot cars, so that'll be good to get done. The R crews, they're wrapping up F16 right west of M47, that should be open today. And then they're working on a culvert on Apple south of Highway 44, that should also be open today. The bridge crew, I actually just got a picture from the bridge foreman. They got all the riprap slurried on the bridge. Gonna start beams tomorrow and they'll be decking it on Monday. And then rock's being hauled from Denison. And I just kind of wanted to update you guys. We've been getting, I haven't seen anything from Shelby, but we've been getting a lot of rock from Martin Marietta and Fort Calhoun and Fort Dodge. And we got mid-year price increases that we generally don't get. Yeah. But
Is it a price increase or a fuel surcharge?
whatever you want to call it, the price went up. So July 1 effective, rock from Fort Calhoun went from $13.25 to $14.20, a 7.2% increase. And from Fort Dodge, it went from $8 to $8.80, a 10% increase. So
Had they already increased it earlier this year?
January 1st is generally when Martin Marietta.
It's generally once a year.
I've never seen them increase twice a year. But fuel surcharges and equipment and labor shortage, and
Yes, fuel is huge.
it is.
Item.
It really is. So
It's affecting everybody.
yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. So
Okay,
great.
I appreciate your time. Next on the agenda is non-union wage adjustments for 2023. I'm going to take the responsibility for this one because we addressed this about a month ago and we said non-union salaries. But the one difference was in the past, this year, all the union contracts had at least a 50-cent wage adjustment plus the cost of living. Some were up to $1. That was the range. We also have, during the past year, looked at some different departments. One example is up to courthouse clerical. We increased that $2, $1 right away and $1 coming here in July. So there's a handful of employees out there who haven't, whether a union, different departments, that are not looking at it, or we're not getting a wage adjustment. And that was my fault when I brought it. I never really looked at that because it wasn't normal. But our past practice has been, whatever we give the union, we at least minimally give our non-union to try to treat everybody the same in benefits and salaries. So with all that said, I would like to propose today that the non-union get a 50-cent wage adjustment for anybody who is not already on schedule to get a wage adjustment. If you're getting a wage adjustment July 1 of $1, you're not getting $1.50. Okay? It's anybody that's not getting at least above a 3%, because that's the wage increase, cost of living that we had proposed. If you're not getting anything more than that, you're eligible for 50 cents. Is that clear? Okay? I think that's fair to affect everybody, because I'm sorry if some of them we didn't look at, but it's really hard. And it's a good time now because all of the unions are addressing this too. So, any questions from anybody? You guys? So I apologize that I did not include that a month ago.
And the department heads would get Melissa the wage change sheets for each employee.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have to go through and look at each employee and see where they're at. That's where mistakes do get made.
I would ask that you just put on a memo that we pass this today and explain it or give an example so it makes it clear.
Thank you.
Okay?
You need a motion.
I need a motion for this.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Charlie, second by Darren. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Okay, resolution 2022-32, authorize an internal loan. Mark.
I gotta remember, yearly what Shelby County does is the general basic fund loans an amount of money to the TIF fund to bring the balance up to $200,000. And that way there's $200,000 in there to spend on TIF projects through the year.
And then TIF pays us back.
And then 2 years from now, we get the money back from TIF, from the state.
It's really seed money.
Yes. Yep.
So
It's just an official.
Motion to approve.
make it transparent.
Yep.
Second.
Motion to approve, authorization internal loan. Darren made the motion, Charlie seconded it. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. The annual SWIPCO joint participation agreement. Mark?
Charlie probably knows as much as I do. It's just what Shelby County pays for being a member. Pays for being a member.
Agreement with us.
Yeah. $6,000 a year. It hasn't increased in the past 6 years I've been here.
Is there any language change to this from last year?
No.
Do you have anything? No, Todd's on the board.
No, this is just an annual renewal, same renewal we've done every year for the last few years. And as Mark mentioned, there has not been any increase in fees or charges.
And we're happy with what they do.
Yeah, you guys do a great job.
Thanks.
You couldn't ask for better on.
No, good Lord,
A
no.
lot of programs they offer.
Yep. Yep.
And help.
And they help all over Southwest Iowa.
Yeah. So yeah, so this is just, of all of the counties that we cover, this is just Shelby County's, contribution. Every county contributes. This is just Shelby County's contribution.
In our region.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Darren to approve the SWIPCO joint participation agreement, second by Charlie. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Resolution 2023-33, auditors transfer authorization for fiscal year 23. Mark, you're having a lot of resolutions on
I
there.
know, we're up at 33. What's the deal?
I know. They, it's all the hearings, all require the resolutions and that. All this is the supervisors approve a budget, and it approves me without any more authorization when the time comes, when we have the funds to transfer the money as you three gentlemen budgeted for the coming year. If it would be more than budget, then we'd have
Then
to
you
do
gotta
it.
come back to it. You have to come back to us.
Yep.
This allows you to do a certain limit.
What's that?
Allows you to do a certain limit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every one of them says, there's 7 different budget transfers, and every one of them says as budgeted. So we can't go over, some of them stay under that because we don't need the money, and we keep it in reserves for the next year.
Any other questions? Motion to approve.
Motion approved, second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Darren. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Anything else from the public out there? Todd, you have anything you'd like to say?
No, like because of how loaded the agenda was and knowing that today's election day, I told Mark I didn't have anything. I can't wait until the third week of the month. So
Nothing pressing?
Nothing pressing, so I'll
Okay.
go report the third week.
Okay. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Anybody else? Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.